2024 quarter three. I cannot believe it's over. This year has flown by. This quarter was a particularly strong reading month. Not necessarily in quantity, but quality. I had an excellent quarter. I read some bangers this month. Every single one of these books I really enjoyed. There is nothing less than a 3-star rating in this stack of 8 books. I wish I could have read more books in the span of 3 months, but look, there are some big, hefty, chunky books in this pile. So at the end of the day, I'm proud of what I accomplished in quarter 3. Super excited to do this wrap-up video because all of these were great. You can't go wrong with any of these books. Honestly, I enjoyed every single one of them. With that being said, I'm going to drop the link to all of these books down in the description below. If you have any interest in any of these books, consider this your sign. Go to the link below, purchase whatever one of these books or all of them that you would like, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. A lot of these books have a lot of hype and for a very good reason. Let me start by saying I'm not easily impressed, even though I really liked all of these. I think I had some really good choices this quarter. So I'm gonna give you a quick synopsis of each of these so you know what to expect and my overall rating, but honestly, all of these were fantastic. I'm very pleased with quarter 3. So let's get started. The first book that I read in quarter 3 was Iron Flame. This is, of course, the sequel to Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I'm gonna be totally honest. I don't understand the negativity surrounding Iron Flame. I keep seeing bookstagrammers, book talkers, booktubers continue to negatively review this book. I don't understand why. I thought it was wonderful. I even thought it was better than Fourth Wing because at this point you're already bought into the world, you're already bought into the characters. I thought it was a fantastic sequel. I'm really excited for Onyx Storm, which is coming out January 2025. So we're right there. In about 3 months, we get to see what happens next with Violet and Xaden. I don't think I need to tell you much about this story. It's very popular. You've probably heard about it. You have your main protagonist, Violet Sorrengail. She attends a war college where she is thrown into a bunch of deadly situations. There are dragons, there is a dark romantic interest. You get to meet Xaden, which there is a ton of hype around his character for a good reason. It's considered a romantasy, so if you are into that, I think you're gonna like this one. I gave both of these books 5 stars, but I did like Iron Flame a little bit better than Fourth Wing. I really do think it's just because at this point, we already know what's going on with the story. We know the characters, we understand the world, and you're just already bought in and intrigued. I really liked Iron Flame. This was 5 stars. Next, I wanna talk about the 2 Brandon Sanderson books that I read. First, let's talk about Warbreaker. This was my second read through of this book. I am just obsessed. I'm absolutely in love. Brandon Sanderson is hands down my favorite author. Not even just my favorite fantasy author, just my favorite author in general. Warbreaker was the very first book that I ever read of his. That was about 7 years ago. I recently just did a reread of this book. I loved it probably more the second time around. The magic system is really interesting. You have a lot of different plot lines going on, but I would say that one of the major plot lines is Princess Ciri from Idris. She is being shipped off to Hollindren to marry the God King. Well, originally it was supposed to be her sister, Princess Vivenna, but then their father, the king, swapped them at the last minute. That's not spoiling anything. That happens within the first couple pages of the book. Ciri is sent to marry the God King, who is this very mysterious, very enigmatic god who rules all of Hollindren. You have a lot of stuff going on as an offshoot of that plot line. There's a lot of political intrigue. There's subterfuge. You have the gods, which are really intriguing. You will love Lightsong. He is honestly one of my favorite characters of all time. He is hilarious. I love Brandon Sanderson's humor. I found myself chuckling so many times during this book. This is easily a 5-star read. I don't accept any ratings less than that, but I will say that this is one of Brandon's earlier books, so his writing does get better, his storytelling does improve, but honestly, I absolutely love this one. This is a standalone novel, so if you haven't read any Brandon Sanderson and you're looking to start reading his books, this is a great starting point for you, and then you can kind of build up to the Stormlight Archive and start getting into the Way of Kings and then all of the books that follow afterwards. If you've thought about reading this book, just go buy it. Check the link below because I promise it is so worth it. My next Brandon Sanderson book was The Frugal Wizards Guide to Surviving Medieval England. That is a hard title for me to say. It's just so long, but this was so good. Weirdly enough, this is actually one of Sanderson's sci-fi books. This is not fantasy, so I was a little skeptical going in, but oh my gosh, I loved this book. I have no criticisms. I have no complaints. Everything about it was just perfect. I love the humor. I love the plot. It follows a nameless character who wakes up in a field having no idea, number 1, where he is, number 2, who he is. Although he finds a tattered handbook that has made its way into his presence, and it gives him clues as to who he was and what what he was doing beforehand. But other than that, he's lost. He has no idea who he is, where he's at, and the story just kind of takes off from there. So this was so good. Again, humor was top notch. I absolutely loved it. This was such a fun book. It's a very quick read. This was one of the secret projects that came out last year, 2023, year of Sanderson. I loved it. This is easily one of my top most favorite reads of the year. I loved it so much. Easy 5 stars. Link below. Go buy this book, please. I promise you're not going to regret it. Next, let's talk about the Powerless books. Wow, I really like these books. They're not perfect, but I really enjoyed them. Simply from an enjoyment perspective, 5 stars. Overall plot, that's where I kind of feel like it's more of like in the 4-star range, but really, I highly recommend them. This was Lauren Roberts' debut novel, and I'm very impressed. If you like romantasy, this is going to be an excellent read for you. If you haven't heard about this book, Powerless follows a girl named Peyton who is, as the title suggests, powerless. Now, she lives in a world where a plague has swept the nation and it has left folks either with or without powers. Now, the king wants to have citizens who all have magical abilities. He is trying to eradicate anyone who does not have any magical abilities. Now, Peyton, she does not have any powers, but her father taught her well. She is faking a psychic ability simply by being extremely observant. She knows things about people because she pays attention. So, very strong female character. Her dad teaches her how to fight, how to be smart. She's witty, she's fun. I back this character 100%. I really love Peyton. I also really loved Prince Kai as well. They have excellent chemistry, excellent banter. Some of it is a little cheesy. You have to look beyond that because some of it definitely inspires some eye roll moments. Peyton ends up saving Prince Kai in Loot, which is the slums where she currently resides. And because she did that, she ends up in these deadly trials. It's really just a competition that the king likes to put on for show. It's kind of Hunger Games-esque, kind of, but not really. It's different enough to where I think you're really gonna like it. So she is up against all these other folks with magical abilities. She has no powers, yet she has to not only survive, but win these trials. So great book. This was like a 4.25 for me, 4.5 I would say. It's really excellent, but some of the dialogue I didn't totally believe, and some of the plot I think had a couple problems, but overall, very good. So then, of course, I had to read the little novella that follows that. It's called Powerful. This one follows Peyton's best friend, Adena. Oh, what a sweetheart. She is such a sweet, wholesome character. She has her own little love story going on with Mac, who's also a really good character. Very short. You can breeze through this within a couple of days. I really enjoyed it, but make sure that you are stocked up on the tissues. If you read this, you kind of have an idea of what to expect from this. So go into it knowing that it will tug at your heartstrings, but it's such a worthwhile read. I'm really excited to read Reckless, which I haven't done yet, but I have it. I own it. I just need to make time, sit down, and get it done. This one, same thing, not quite 5 stars, 4.25, 4.5, somewhere around that area. Really enjoyed it. Next, we kind of have a random short story, The Yellow Wallpaper. I have been meaning to read this for a very long time. This is a classic. It's very eerie. It follows a woman who is actually going through postpartum depression. She drives herself insane by looking at the yellow wallpaper. It's very creepy, it's spooky. It's actually going to be a really great read if you happen to be watching this video during fall season, maybe around Halloween, because it is kind of eerie, it's creepy. Extremely short, it shouldn't take you more than a day to get through. This is very well written. I can't say it was my favorite. I think it was more so a mood problem for me. Actually, I can tell you exactly what happened. I actually read this right after reading Warbreaker. Warbreaker put me in a major book hangover. I enjoyed Warbreaker so much that simply no other book, no other story was living up to my expectations. So this book deserves a reread, particularly from me, because I didn't give it a fair shot. I was mourning for the story of Warbreaker, and I really just wasn't in the mood, but I had to read something. So I picked up something short, hoping that I could kind of get myself back into the mood for reading and kind of open my mind up to books that were not written by Brandon Sanderson. I gave it an overall 3 stars. It was interesting, it was creepy, it was weird. It is well written, and this is an older book, so 3 stars, but knowing that I would probably rate it higher if I were in a better mood or just in the right mood to read something like this. Next, I ended up reading A Court of Frost and Starlight. This is the little Christmas special that's part of the ACOTAR series, the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. So this is number 4. I actually need to read the 5th one. It's on my bookshelf. I totally forgot it. But I still need to read that one. It's the only one of the series I haven't read yet. This was actually really, really cute. I thought it was really nice. To be honest, not much happens in it, but it was more so of a feeling. It puts you in the Christmas spirit. It's very wintry. This is best read during the winter months, but honestly, I enjoyed it. I read it in July. It was fine. I really liked it. I don't need to tell you much about it because if you are familiar with ACOTAR, Court of Thorns and Roses, you know the characters. It follows Feyre and Rhysand, and really it kind of just gets you caught up on the aftermath of what happens in A Court of Wings and Ruin. A lot happened in this book. So this was kind of a nice breather to take a break and just kind of recenter, get to know the characters a little bit more. I liked it. This was like a 4.5. You know what? 4.75 stars. I really enjoyed it. Christmas in July. No complaints. Lastly, I read John Dies at the End by David Wong, who is also Jason Pargin. Ooh, I really, really like this one. Okay, first and foremost, if you haven't read this, give it a chance. Get at least 100 pages into it before you give up on it. I almost DNF'd this one just because the humor wasn't totally hitting me quite right. It's boy humor, but move beyond it because this is such a worthwhile book. It got me really obsessed with Jason Pargin's writing. I'm really excited to read the sequels, which I plan to read this one next. This book is full of spiders. From what I understand, his writing and his storytelling just improves. He just gets better and better. This story follows David and John. Now, this is told from David's perspective. David and John, they are not your typical heroes. They're idiots. But if you look closely, there is so much more to their characters than what you see on the surface. This, honestly, I always tell people you need to read this a second time because there's so much foreshadowing. There's so much going on that the first time that you read through it, you're not going to catch it all because you just don't see it coming. But on your second read through, that's when you really, really can stop and appreciate Jason Pargin's writing because, wow. This really is a masterpiece. I really, really love this. Yes, there's silly humor. Yes, there's goofy monsters sometimes. But when you look at how the story is being told by the perspective of an idiot, you kind of understand how he's describing, how he's explaining these occurrences that are happening to him. So these two characters, David and John, they encounter a drug that they deem as the soy sauce. Now, the soy sauce kind of opens their minds to be able to perceive different dimensions. Now, what they find in that other dimension is completely horrifying. This has so many creepy aspects to the story. This creeped me out. I will be honest. I felt haunted. It was very chilling. It made my walks at night really unsettling. There were some creepy moments in this book that gave me full body chills because it is absolutely horrifying. This is a satirical cosmic horror book, which is my first time ever reading a genre like this. It was great. It was so, so good. I simply cannot wait to read This Book is Full of Spiders. I'm a fan. Let's just call it what it is. I'm simply obsessed. So absolutely recommend this one. You know, the funny thing is I have been rating this a 4.5 stars. I'm taking off a half star just because the humor didn't always hit me the right way. But gosh darn it, I always think of this book. It's still on my mind. I finished this weeks ago and I still think about it honestly every day. Some parts that are just chilling, some parts that just made me think. I think about the characters. There's just a lot to the story. Give it a chance. Give it the chance that it deserves. Don't DNF it. Fight those DNF-like feelings because it is so worth it. I'm willing to venture. I would give this like a 4.75, maybe even a 5 star, just because I think about it all the time. So those are the books that I read in Q3. Leave me a comment below if you have read and loved any of these books, or if you hated them. I also want to hear about that experience as well. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on bookish content. Lots of Jason Pargin content coming up, lots of Brandon Sanderson content coming up because Wind and Truth is coming out in December. So very exciting times. And Jason Pargin just released a new book. It's called I'm Starting to Worry About This Box of Doom. It sounds so good. I'm really excited to read it. Let me know what you read in Q3. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you read any of these books and whether you loved or hated them. Thank you for sticking with me, and we'll catch you on the flip side.